Hey guys, so you read a piece of philosophy in the Victorian era by Stuart Mill. I think this is a really important piece, The Subjection of Women. It was published in 1869. Let me tell you just a little bit about Stuart Mill, and then we'll talk just a bit about that piece. Stuart Mill was born in 1806 and he died in 1873. He was raised with a strong standard of education, and he was raised in a utilitarian household. This was a type of faith that was, and philosophical beliefs that was specific more to the Victorian era. Utilitarianism is really interesting because at its heart, it basically says that what is best for all people is the greater good, is the right thing to do. Often when I teach this in class, I sort of make a joke. I say, what if everyone in the class decided that we're gonna beat up that kid in the back? And that is like the best thing for all of us. If we all agreed that beating up that poor kid in the back was the best thing for all of us, and that's gonna help us, and that's gonna be the greater good, well then we morally are allowed to beat him up. That's kind of what utilitarianism says, but hopefully it's used for good purposes and not bad purposes. But it is really about the greater good. If the best for all people is the right thing to do. Anyway, Stuart Mill's father was very strict. And as Mill aged, he sort of had these utilitarian values in his heart, but he moved away from them as he got older. He was madly in love with a married woman, Harriet Taylor, and he did eventually marry her. He had very strong religious and social beliefs, and he was an active writer. As I said already, The Subjection of Women was published in 1869, and this is a piece about equality for women. It pairs nicely with having read Wollstonecraft's a piece about women, Vindication of the Rights of Woman, because it really in many ways sort of piggybacks off of the things that Wollstonecraft was saying. And although he never mentions her, I'm sure that he read her because he would have read her. He was fascinated and interested in this equality issue, particularly for women, and there wasn't much else written about it. So he would have gone back and read Wollstonecraft. So in The Subjection of Women, Mill compares the state of women to slavery. He uses laissez-faire economics to tackle gender stereotypes. So he looks at a popular economic model of the day and applies it to some gender stereotypes. Look for that. One of the things he says that I think is really important is that you can't know the true nature of woman. You can't know really what women are because of the social constructions around gender and around how women are supposed to be socially. And that's a really powerful thing to say. One of my favorite lines, he says, and he's attacking the idea that this subjection of women was sort of normal. He says, but was there ever any domination which did not appear natural to those who possessed it? So in other words, he's like, hey man, when you're the dominant power, of course that's what feels natural to be dominant. He has a lot of really fantastic other lines. I'll mention one more. He says, given sort of all the things happening socially, given that the only way for a woman to advance is to, get an MRS degree, get married, he says, it would be a miracle if the object of being attractive to men had not become a polar star of feminine education. Because women have to, attract men in order to succeed in the Victorian era. So he's commenting on that. So there's lots of really wonderful things that he says. Pay attention particularly to, in your own mind, what has changed today and maybe what hasn't changed today, all right? So enjoy Stuart Mill, enjoy The Subjection of Women. Or don't enjoy that, actually. Don't enjoy The Subjection of Women. Oh, enjoy this piece of philosophy.